Hello, Ielts winners. One challenge many participants face with regard to writing is how to complete the task within the given time span, right? You are supposed to write two questions. You're supposed to do two questions in 1 hour time. You're supposed to write about a graph and then you're supposed to write about an essay. So, how do you make sure that in the given time span of 1 hour, you write about both of them? How do you practice this skill? Well, the easiest way to practice is to use some sample answers and develop your own skills with the help of those sample answers. Let me quickly show this to you. So what you can do, for example, is if you catch hold of some good examples, like for example, look at this. Here we have a bar chart and we have three bar charts. As you can see, average years of schooling, scientists and technicians per 1000 people, and spending on research and development. These are the three heads. The question says the charts below show the levels of participation in education and science in developing and industrialized countries in 1980 and 1990. So participation in education and science is the topic here. And there is a comparison given of 1980 and 1990. The two bars, the legends, as they say, are corresponding to developing countries and industrialized countries. The dark one represents the industrialized country and the light one represents the developing country. Let's take one bar graph at a time and try to understand it. As I can see here, average years of schooling. So here it was like 2.5 years and it is around 8+ years for industrialized countries, which means the participation in schooling is for more number of years, whereas in case of the underdeveloped or developing countries, it is less. And as we move from 1980 to 1990, both the graphs, both the bars have increased in size, but the rate of increase here is much higher, which means the industrialized countries are giving more emphasis in terms of number of years of schooling. Similarly, if I look at the second one, this one talks about scientists and technicians per thousand. So what is the proportion of scientists and technicians? Again, it is much higher in industrialized nations, and the rate of increase is also steeper in the industrialized ones. The third one also shows the same story, but here something has dipped. Spending on research and development, and this research and development spending by the developing countries has actually dipped, but for the developed countries has increased. So we can talk about one graph at a time and we can write numbers corresponding to them. Now, one way is you write about the whole graph all by yourself. Second is you use this sample. So a sample is provided here in this, which depicts everything with regard to graphs. All you have to do is use these samples to model your answers. Okay. You're supposed to start with an introduction. So you write an introduction here. There is no need of one. Simply write the introduction the way it is. You don't even have to write this heading introduction. So introduction is given, then body, which talks about one graph at a time, right? And you can use all the language, the content, the highlighted words are the phrases which can be used in other graphs also. Yeah. And then at the end, there is summary. The thing which I want to emphasize is that don't write essays all or graphs all by yourselves. Use these samples. Okay. So it talks about introduction. What is the introduction? The three bar charts depict the varying levels of participation in the field of education and science by this. So, you can just paraphrase the question itself. The charts below show the level of participation. The P3 bar graphs depict the level of participation. Like this, you can just change it in education and science by two classes of countries for the years 1980 and 1990. So like this, you can paraphrase the question and write the introduction, which is shown here. Then you are supposed to write body, wherein you will write trends, comparisons, and highlight. You can take one at a time, right? So you can start with 1980 average year of schooling. As we can see in 1980, there was a huge difference in average years of schooling. between the developing and the industrialized countries, wherein developing was just around 2.5 years, whereas the industrialized showed around 8.5 years. When we move to the next graph, the difference further increased, right? The gap further increased as because the rate of increase for developed or industrialized countries was much higher as compared to the developed ones. Like this, you can talk about each of the graphs, and the appropriate language which is supposed to be used is given here in the answers, right? At the end, you write the summary. To sum up, the industrialized nations have shown substantially higher participation, and their rate of increase is also significantly higher. So these kind of adjectives are important, significantly higher and substantially higher. So these kind of adjectives come very handy. Here you have got questions and answers to all the different types of graphs. And the way we have read this graph, we can just go on doing all the different types of questions in task 1 and task 2 using this file. There are questions as well as answers. All you have to do is take one question as a sample, understand it, and then write about it in your own words. You can take some help from the answers in case you want to use certain adjectives which describe trend and other stuff. And that becomes very easy to learn. So this is the easiest way to develop your writing skills. And I would like you to adopt it. All the best to you. Thank you so much.